New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Why, hello, it's me. Yes, me, Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief. Here with you on another Monday, doing what we do every Monday. Share our experiences around grief. And you know why we're doing that, right? So that we demystify grief, that we take the energy off of it, the heaviness. It's like getting the elephant out of the room. Not only getting the elephant out of the room, it's addressing the shadow in the room, shining the light on it, to see that grief is just another human experience. And remembering too that grief is caused by loss. And it's not just death. It is any loss of anything that you've held dear, hopes, dreams. Of course, loved ones that do transition, but also loss of a job, a career, anything that takes your life out of what was normal for you, and you can't go back to that. That is loss, in turn, which shifts us into grief. And grief is just any emotion, not any emotion, but normally grief is associated with those sense of sadness, sometimes loneliness, just deep, deep disappointment. Even sometimes there's some joy or around something that normally puts one in grief. Sometimes there's a relief that, oh, thank God it's over, But just knowing that whatever emotions we feel connected with a loss, that can put us into grief. And so I just want to say I am a grief coach, a registered nurse, a religious science practitioner, and a licensed soul collage facilitator. And I felt like today I should just share something personal also, that I am a mother of 4. I have a wonderful, loving husband. I have fantastic, terrific friends. And just life is very good for me. So just want to share that with you to make your doula for grief a little bit more human. So back to our topic of grief. And what I want to say also around grief is that grief has a magical superpower. And its superpower is to transform us into, I don't like cliches, but I'm going to use this one, that grief has the power to transform us into our next greatest to be. So many people have moved through the grieving process, come out on the other side, totally a changed person. And I have never had anyone say I was worse after that incident. If anything, people say, oh, wow, I learned, my sister was writing poetry because she lost her husband about 4 years ago. She lost Bill 4 years ago, a sudden death, which was really traumatic. And she has been moving through her grief these last 4 years. And now she's a poet. Now she's creating jewelry. She said that making jewelry was her way of going within and examining what was there after such a tremendous loss. She said she never thought that she could recover from such deep, deep grief. And she stated, oh, something on this level of grief. So knowing that grief's superpower is transformation and healing. So that's why we need to really have dialogue around it, talk about it. Grief needs to be heard, and grief needs to be validated. And I want you to know that if you can feel it, you can heal it. Know that if you can feel it, you can heal it. So please join the conversation at any time. Drop a note in the comment box, a question if you'd like. But just, make this your hour. Allow yourself to be a part of this. As I said, make this a part of your day, that this is for you. And I see that we have my beautiful friend Megan, who's going to be on the show pretty soon. I can't wait for you to meet her. So hi, Megan. She's down in Jalisco, Mexico. And I'm here in California right now and going back to Jalisco for next week's show. So with that said, why don't we move into our topic of the week? And our topic this week is building resilience in the midst of grief. Building resilience in the midst of grief. That's our topic. And I want to say that sometimes we just throw words out there and start speaking to that word without really understanding that word that we've thrown out. And that word that I want to explore is resilience. And there's always a Webster dictionary version of any word. And so I'll give you the dictionary version of resilience. And it says resilience is defined by the ability to recover from setbacks, adapt well to change, and keep going in the face of adversity. The capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. And I don't want you to latch onto that word quickly, because everybody's grief is different. Everybody's grief has its own timeline. But I thought we'd just talk about that. And what word speaks out, steps forward for me, is this adapt to change. And anytime we're adapting, it's a process. It's not suddenly I'm changed, but adapting to that change, to what's going on. And also, we all have heard the 5 stages of grief, and I understand their importance, but it's not a linear type of stages of grief. It's always cyclical. You go back and forth between sadness, depression, acceptance, shock, anger. You move through all of those cycles. And what I like about resilience grieving, okay, it focuses on what you can do, providing you, so to speak, a toolkit of ways to think and act that can help you cope with the sadness. And that's it, to help you cope with sadness and loss. Resilience grieving aims to help you rebuild or relearn your world, to help you navigate the grieving process as best you can without hiding from your feelings or denying the reality or significance of your loss. And there's a great book that speaks to that, and it is called Resilience Grieving. And I'll get you the author's name before we leave. So that's what we're discussing today. Resilience grieving and building, building that resilience while in the midst of grief. Another book that I really read that really resonated and spoke to me was Option B by Sheryl Sandberg. Sheryl Sandberg, she was the CEO of Google at one point, and her husband, a young man, died suddenly on the treadmill. And so, like all of us when we're in grief, our work to do is our work to do. And she was doing her work with a psychologist by the name of Martin Seligman. And Martin Seligman says there's 3 P's that can stunt our grief recovery, or that can get in the way of building resilience. And the first P is personalization, the belief that you're at fault for whatever happened. In this book, Sheryl Sandberg was saying that she felt that if she'd gotten to the gym sooner, she could have prevented her husband's death. With my own sister, she felt like if she had done CPR more effectively, she could have saved her husband. I too, my sister transitioned about almost 2 years ago. And I just remember my last conversation with her. She was just really sobbing and sobbing. And I just felt so numb inside that I felt bad that I couldn't feel anything. And maybe that was premature grief, that numbness. And I just remember saying to her, the only thing I could think to say, I said to her, "Can I pray with you?" And she immediately said, "No, but you can pray for me." So I was holding that. If I just maybe prayed with her and, maybe forced her to really listen to a prayer for her or with her. But so not taking yourself off of any proverbial hook, getting away from that, it's your fault. That's number one. However you can move through that, just allowing yourself to know that you're not at fault for the death of a loved one, even the loss of a hope and dream, if you want to say that, if I had just done X, Y, and Z, knowing that what has happened has happened. And there's that idea that comes that the past is frozen in a lake and there's nothing that you can do to change that. You can only move forward. And the second P was a pervasiveness, the belief that an event can affect every area of your life, like just a big cloud that spreads over your life. That also is another area to take a look at, to change that, to see how even though, yes, you're in grief, you can still go to a birthday party. You can still go to a celebration and be in joy and celebrate there. Because the beauty of the human spirit is that we can hold both. Deep, deep, deep sadness and joy. We can hold them both. And the last P is that sense of permanence, that this will never go away. This will never end. That you'll always feel the same deep, dark, resounding depression. But that's not true. That's not true. Slowly, slowly, that too will start to dissipate, but it does. It does need your attention. It does need your attention. As I said, if you can feel it, you can heal it. But knowing that yes, you can move through that. That yes, this pain will lessen over time. Time and attention, remember that. So those are the 3 P's of what can stunt your building this resiliency that I'm talking about. As I said, taking it personal that it's your fault is one. Pervasiveness that it clouds your entire life. And then the last is permanent, and knowing that those are not truths. Those are areas to look at. And I thank Martin Siegelman for bringing those up. It gives us some areas to really look at. And before we go any further with bringing in some of the other emotions that can help guide us to building resilience, I'm going to take a break. And then when we come back, I have a very, very special guest that will share his experience of navigating the waters of building resilience to move through grief. So hang tight, and we'll be back.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hi, it's Bonnie. I'm still here. And as I promised you, I have a beautiful guest that will be joining us. And before I bring my guests out, I just wanted to continue just a little bit on building resilience in the midst of grief. There's so many things that we can do. And that's what we will focus on at this time, things that we can do. And I know one of the things, and I had a show a couple months ago on this, using ritual. But we'll leave it there, and I'll bring my guests out. And my special guest today, which is a person that's really dear to my heart, holds a very special place in my heart. And his name is Alex Christidis. And I welcome Alex to the show and allowing him to bring his insight. Alex has definitely had more than his fair share of opportunities to navigate the waters of grief, as I said. And he is, I'll say, our expert for today. But no, I won't put that kind of pressure on Alex. I just want him to share his stories from the heart on navigating the waters of grief, building resiliency. Hey,
Hi.
there's Alex. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing?
Oh, I am just wonderful. I'm more excited that you're here with me today in the
Yeah, look,
studio and sharing this.
I feel the pressure mounting after that rollout you just gave me. I don't know if I could.
No, there's no pressure, Alex. Wow. Um, I was going to say, Alex, I was just talking. I'm sure you heard backstage about the three P's that the psychologist was talking about, the pervasiveness, the personalization, and the permanence.
Mhm.
And each one of us has our own experience with that. And I would just ask you how you've experienced grieving. As I said, you've had more than your fair share, and you're a very young man. So, um, sharing with others your experience
Yeah,
would
I mean, I
be
think the
so
first P kind of stood out to me, just the personalization of it all, because I always had this kind of way of looking at things where it's almost like a selfish way, because I'm like, I got into this whole cause and effect, and like just kind of how you were mentioning, like, oh, if she would have made it to the gym earlier, and just
Mhm.
things that really, when you
Yes.
know you got like an objective perspective on it, you'd be like, that's not a rational way of even thinking. But it's just like, at the time, I used
Mhm.
to, I think early on, like, I would tend to like beat myself up about things that were just completely out of my hands when it came to
Yes.
things like that. So I definitely, that kind of resonated with me when that
Mhm.
first P. And I mean,
Yeah.
and just how they can just kind of just consume you, and I'll throw another P in there, just like PTSD, because after a while, it's just like,
Yes.
yeah, it again, I don't really know that, like when we were speaking, you and I, before, like, I don't really know that I'm the best to be, because I don't have the answers. It's just like, you think like you've been through this so many times that you would be better at it, but it's just different every time, because you're dealing with different people, different
Mhm.
circumstances, and it's just kind of, it's almost like each time it happens, it's just,
Mhm.
you think somehow you would have some thicker skin, or at least I can only speak for myself and say it's just kind of not the way it
Mhm.
works.
Mhm.
And
Wow. Um, yes. Alex, I just want you to back up, and you said it was like PTSD. And I really do agree with that, or can hear that. And um, I have a psychotherapist friend who says this, that sometimes it's not even what happened, it's how you hear about it
oh
that
yeah,
bugs you. If you wanted to speak to that.
well, it's funny that you say that, because I tend to have like a really graphic, or like when it comes to memory, it could be something from like 30 years ago. It could be like something that like it's like some kid who was sitting two seats in front of me in second grade had on, and I just remember it clear as day, or just whole conversations that really, I mean, I don't really have any control over it. But when it's something as
Mhm.
monumental as like a loss, like, unfortunately, it's kind of like almost a gift and a curse, because sometimes I just kind of wish I could numb those type of, because
Mhm.
the details are there to the point where I kind of can dwell on it a little more, and
Yes.
and so vividly that it makes it a little harder to get past
Mhm.
it, And
Yes.
yeah, I mean, that's the way you just worded that. I mean, yeah, how you find out is, I mean, of course, because you know
Mhm.
you you might want to hear it from someone, that's going to be able to put it to you gently, or that's a loved one, or whether it's sudden or it's something you saw coming. I mean, all of those things kind of factor into, I think how the overall,
Yes.
how it hits you, and
I um just speaking from personal experience, um, even when I knew that someone was going to die, and you hear it, it's so like jarring to the system. Like,
yeah,
wow, Okay. Yes, yes, yes. And anyway, moving. So I was going to ask you, Alex, is there anything that any activity that you engage in, anybody that you call? What do you do when those moments of that,
Yeah.
that personalization,
Yeah.
is there any way that you're able to uh, embrace it but continue to move through it?
Yeah. I think I could probably be a little better at like venting a little more instead of just like keeping it all pent up. But you know, I love to cook and I love music, things like that. And you know, just I really don't have too many relatives, as you know, Bonnie, in this
Yeah.
country. So kind of my friends that have been around, they've kind of always been like a second family to me. And I mean that,
Hmm.
you know, sometimes just keeping the right company kind of helps
Oh.
ease things
Hmm.
like that. But I mean,
Yeah.
you know, when you lose people that are like really close to you, and it's like, I mean, it's part of life. So I guess the older we get, the more loss we're going to experience. Just like statistically, that's just how it works, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, just keeping, you know, good company around, and
I love that, Alex.
sometimes just distracting myself, honestly, for lack of a better word. I mean, maybe that's, but you know, sometimes that's just, it's almost like a ignorance is bliss kind of thing. Like I could just, I mean, because it goes both ways. It's like once you lose somebody that, you know, in my case, it made me sometimes more reluctant to get close to somebody else because
Mhm.
I don't want to like put myself in that position again. But that's no way to live, you know what I mean? And but at the
Mm.
time, it's kind of like sometimes you can't tell me. I mean, I'm so stuck on a certain way of thinking that I'm just like, oh, I'll just, you know, keep people at an arm's distance, and that's just going to
Mhm.
minimize the potential for, you know, hurt.
Mhm. Yes. Wow, Alex, that is really mm, a good point there. Of almost, don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm just thinking, almost avoiding intimacy, avoiding getting close. Limiting or cutting ourselves off is.
Yeah.
I think. Thank you for thank you for bringing that point up, because
Hmm.
that's another area of exploring, along with our P's, um,
Right. Right.
avoiding personal relationships. Oh, that would put the fourth P, personal relationship avoidance.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
at this point, I mean, because I wouldn't advise it. I'm just saying that's
No.
sometimes what something that would just naturally be like maybe a defense mechanism that would just come about, and I wouldn't even
Hmm.
really realize it until I got some type of perspective, like later on. It was like, well, that wasn't really, you know, that's probably not something I would try and advise somebody do because, you
Right.
know, and it goes back to like you. I mean, I don't want to butcher the saying. I guess it's kind of a proverb, but like, you know, it's better to have loved and lost than to not have loved at all. And you're kind of cheating yourself out of things by
Mm-hmm.
just kind of pushing people away or keeping yourself kind of reclusive, and you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
And
things like come with time. I mean, you know, there's been, you know, I lost my older brother when I was 18. He was quite a few years older than me. We weren't really that close. He was actually, to be perfectly honest, kind of like an abusive dude. Like when I was like a kid, you know what I mean? So
mhm.
I wasn't a big fan of his, but at the same time, like to see what it did to my parents, you know, that's what really hurt me the most. So
Mhm.
it kind of made like, just because I had so many mixed feelings about it, it kind of made it a little easier for me to be the stronger one out of like the family and kind of keep it together
Right.
for them. So, you know, but then yeah, and it's like a lot of the losses I've had have just been kind of sudden, like we
Mhm.
were talking about, and
Yeah.
it just, you know, you don't get to like slowly kind of make
Roll into it.
amends or whatever you want to call it, and it's or like prepare yourself, and it's just kind of the rug just gets just ripped right from
Mhm.
under you, and yeah, again, you would think that you'd be like you'd have like a handbook on how to deal with grief, but it's just like every situation is kind of got its own special circumstances. And
Right.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Alex, for saying this. There's a couple points there that you brought up that I want to just explore a little bit further. And you were saying you would not advise people to use the strategy of avoiding intimacy or closeness. But what I want to thank you for is shining a light on that's something you can examine, because maybe you weren't even aware of it until you said it. And it's like, oh yeah, wow, I have limited my circle of friends or whatever.
Yeah.
So having this dialogue is helping just to shine a light in that area. The saying, time heals all wounds. I think you healed that. You said that. But time and attention heals wounds. Time with no attention heals nothing. But times with attention is what can bring the healing. As I said in the opening, if you can feel it, you can heal it. Or to heal it, you need to feel it. So that's one step in that direction. And I wanted to just ask you to first explore a little bit more around losing a loved one, that we love them but didn't always have good experiences.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I can share my story, but I want to just hear more around that not having that. And you said it led you to feel that you could be more of a support for your family. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, I think just the fact that, I mean, of course it was, unfortunate thing, and it's tragic, and the whole experience. But I think just the fact that I was kind of detached in a way, just because of my relationship with my brother. It just made it easier for me to kind of keep a more stoic kind of like face on, in the heat of when all of this was going on. It kind of made it probably a little bit better of a support system for my parents, who were, that was their firstborn. It was just me and him. So, I can imagine, I mean, I can't begin to imagine, but I'm sure it's really tough. So, I mean, that part kind of was a blessing in disguise, I guess you might say, just because it helped. It enabled me to just be a little bit more like together, and not like coming apart at the seams, over that. And
right.
As I'd said, like, well, I think you got to meet my friend Matt, back in the day. And you know how that what happened there. Unfortunately, he passed away in a motorcycle accident. And I always said like that was my brother. You know what I mean? Just from another mother, but yeah. And that was one where I just, I kind of didn't. I'm still not really over that. I don't think that I ever will be. It's been about 9 years, believe it or not, and still I'm just like, yeah.
Wow, you say 9 years. It feels like, for me, like just a couple of years ago. I can't. Yeah. And I'm just having a moment remembering him, and just the pain that I know that still causes. And so with that said, Alex, is there, gosh, there's so many thoughts that I'm having right now, with supporting the first loss that you have, because we learn how to grieve from our family, from our community, from our families. And I know that your father is Greek and your mother is Swedish, correct?
Right.
Right. Do you feel those cultures hold death and grief in a different way than we do here in the U.S.? The U.S. is just don't deal with it, don't talk about it. Do you think those cultures?
I think I mean, it's weird, because when you get like America is just such a, especially like I can speak for, growing up in Los Angeles and then being in the Bay Area, there's such a more diversity. So my idea of America might be completely different from somebody who's
Right,
like in the
right.
Midwest or somewhere else. So, I mean, you get this kind of like, I mean, melting pot, for lack of a better word, of just culture. So you can kind of see a little bit of that in, but then, like for instance, when Matt had passed away, his neighbor Juan, they did the whole rosary thing where they were like, it was like 7 days. So they really go like, they really like, what's the
What
word
was
I'm looking
Matt?
for here?
Yeah, what was Matt's ethnic background? I don't remember.
He's Matt,
Just
his folks were from New Mexico originally. And then we grew up in LA together.
Mm-hmm.
But his neighbors just happened to be really close, like that block that he lived on, like everybody was tight. So when when that unfortunate thing happened, they had like, I'm kind of more mentioned it just to show you that side of it, where they just had like, every day was like a separate funeral, almost like a wake, like every day for like 7 days. And I'm like, part of me was like, okay, this is exhausting now. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, grieving is exhausting, Alex. Grieving is exhausting. But what I was going to say to the fact that they were doing something every day, that is the aspect of ritual, how ritual can allow us to feel a sense of control over these events that are uncontrollable. To have that kind of ritual can be a way of having a sense of control, as well as mourning.
Sure.
Making space to mourn, making a space to really mourn and grieve, which is definitely the most helpful thing during grief, to have a space for this to happen. And with that said, those rituals, you said that it did leave you at times feeling like enough.
Yeah.
Already.
I mean, because it's just like part of it kind of goes not against, but like I said, like I would try and find like, just temporary little distractions to kind of even give myself like 15 minutes of not thinking about something like this.
Oh, of course.
Really, yes. But it's like when there's a constant like celebration, and it's a beautiful thing, and I mean I love them for it and everything, but it's just like, it was just kind of like there was no distraction there, because it was just kind of in your face for like 7 straight days of it, and I'm just I mean, of course it's accustomed, like, but to answer your question about like my parents' background and how they treat it, I kind of only just have the perspective of just being like their kid. So I don't know really like what it's like to go back. Like I visited, but I never went back to visit, where they were from for something, like a funeral or something. Like thankfully, I mean, we went back there to see people, but I'd say they have it's a pretty regular thing. I don't think, I mean, they don't do like the 7 days in a row thing that I know of,
Maybe that was a Catholic ritual, because we're living in Mexico now, and I know if someone dies, or we had a neighbor that was killed in a motorcycle accident, that everybody that night, everybody with all the candles in the street and all night, it was like an all night kind of ritual. And then the next day,
like a vigil.
Yes, and a visual remembering. It was absolutely beautiful. And then the next day is the funeral, the burial. That's it. It's like, wow, that's a different culture, and just gave me a different look at the mourning process. But there was a lot of time together. There was a lot of togetherness time afterwards as well. And how do you feel about that aspect of, you said earlier on, keeping good company? Do you feel, in your experience, that you find being with other people during that time is helpful?
Oh yeah, I think so. And I think like I would also try to make it a point to not be so caught up in whatever I was going through almost selfishly to where I might be bad company around other people, because we were kind of feeding off each other's energy. And so, yeah, definitely going back to just keeping, you know, loved ones or whoever kind of puts you at ease or something. I mean, that could never be a bad thing in my book. Again, I probably have more don'ts than do's that I'm like saying out here, like, don't do this. This is not like a master class in grief coming from me. But
no,
but yeah, definitely keeping good company is, I mean, it had been effective for me, because again, you know, you want to be around people that kind of put you at ease or comfort you. I mean, I think that's almost like a human instinct, maybe to a degree, you know.
And there was something else that you said that I wanted to just explore just a little bit. You said that you didn't want to lose it, or doing things to keep from losing it or for falling apart. And I just know that in our society, you know, we are socialized. Women are socialized differently from men. You know, men are told that, you know, man up or shake it off. What's your feeling around that? How men grieve versus, we'll just say how men grieve. And I don't want to get into any stereotypical anything. I just know that we're socialized different.
Sure.
Different. So our grief response to grief is going to be different.
I mean, I think it's probably less how it's or how we're expected to be, or what we think we're expected to like conduct ourselves. I mean, like maybe be more stoic and more strong about it, and not like be like sobbing and all of that. That's just maybe that may be just the impression that we're given. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think everybody feels that, like, a certain level of pain, and you know, it's going to come out, whether it's in private or whether, you know, I would say, yeah, just searching for the right words here, but I think it's more expected for like the societal norm would be like for men to just be like, again, just more stoic and more like, you know, yeah.
Like, and in your opinion and with your experience with grief, are you seeing a change from that, Alex, or still the same? That's an area that we still need to address and have dialogue around.
Well, I think I was fortunate enough to, you know, I don't even want to like recount. I mean, even in these last few years of, I think they've been rough on everybody, you know.
Oh, yes, the pandemic. Yes.
And, you know, there's a lot of loss and stuff, whether it was related directly to the pandemic itself or just, you know, in that span of time. And I mean, I was just lucky to, I guess, to have like people around me where I didn't feel like I was, you know, being judged based on how I was handling. And I mean, I think that has a lot to do with how you can grieve. If you're in a comfort zone, you're like in a safe space or whatever you want to say, like it's less about that. You can be more yourself and feel how you want to feel without like worrying about what other people are saying or thinking about you, because you're around loved ones. So I think that kind of helps, and it takes your mind off of, oh, I should be handling it this way, or how would this look? I mean, you know, at the end of the day, if you're in pain, you're in pain, you know.
Oh, I love your candor around that, Alex. And also, how do you feel about getting any type of group support or private one-on-one counseling around grief? How do you feel around in those areas?
I mean, I don't think that could ever be a bad thing to I mean, you know, be able to, it's a luxury for some people, and some people kind of have to just, unfortunately, just suck it up and keep it pushing, because maybe they don't have the resources exactly. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's ever I used to have like kind of a closed-minded view at like of therapy and things like that, just because I didn't really understand it. And I was just kind of like, oh, that's for people that, you know, just can't deal with their own stuff. But then over time, I mean, that was an ignorant way of thinking, but
no, that was just your way.
Yeah. But in actuality, I mean, even let's say you, if I went to somebody and sat down and talked to them, what's the worst thing that could happen? I mean, like I didn't feel like it did anything for me. It couldn't be bad, you know. I think it could only be something gained from it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
even just talking to you and the talks that you and I have had, I mean, there's the therapeutic quality to those too, you know. I mean, it's just wherever you can get it. And I try to, you know, anytime I can, whether I'm talking to, you know, Nico, my son, or if I'm talking to somebody, like I try to, if I had to learn something kind of the hard way, I'd always try to, like, you know, spare him the, you know, having to do it that way, whether we're talking about grieving or whether we're just talking about, you know, just day-to-day stuff. I was like, why don't you learn from my mistakes or whatever, so you don't have to deal with it, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Alex, thank you. I know this is difficult, and I am so honored and so in reverence for you that you're able to share on such a difficult subject. And I know it's difficult, and just I'll just say
I
I'm here
appreciate it.
for you.
I appreciate it.
And and what I wanted to say when you were talking about groups, I mean, or getting professional help, if that's out of your, you know, if you don't have the resources for that, there is group support that's free out there. And I just wanted to offer that in case someone did say, oh, I need help, but resources are tight. There are really good grief support organizations out there. And I know that I facilitate once a month grief support group, and it's called CALM, CALM. And the website is oaklandcsl.org, oaklandcsl.org. And I'll put it up again next week because it's the first Sunday of every month. So I want to offer that.
Awesome.
And
I think a lot of people don't have, sometimes people just, I think they just aren't aware that these things are out there.
Yes, because we don't talk about these things.
Yeah.
It's not common conversation. And that is my objective, is to start making this common conversation. And I wanted to say something. You were talking about choosing good friends to be with. And one of the other from this building resilience work that has been done, a part of that, it was about accepting the good, okay? Choosing life over death, if that's what you're dealing with. And as you say, being with people that can bring you to that place of being able to see, we can say the good, but to also hear the pain that you're in, to allow you to experience that, to be able to move to accepting the good, or even looking for the good in your life. And the other idea as well, and you've spoken to this, the importance of having some positive emotions for resilience. Couple of examples of that is just choosing, being aware of hope, love, humor, pride, inspiration, serenity, and awe in our lives. And I love falling back on humor. That's my go-to. Do you find yourself with a go-to when you want to, fall into the positive? What's your go-to?
Well, Bonnie, you know me. I joke around with you all the time. So,
Exactly.
but for other people, you wouldn't know it right now. But yeah. For people that are watching that don't know, I definitely, I'm big on that. Whether it's joking around with you or somebody that's around me, or even just like watching something that's just not like a drag on TV, that it's actually like a movie or something. Yeah, and anything like that to just take you, maybe to a happy place. I mean, I don't think there's any right or wrong answer.
Yes, there's not.
It's just kind of what works for people, and they have to kind of just, I guess, do the trial and error thing, and then kind of figure out what works best for them. Because, at the end of the day, there's some people that are just, introverted, and them just going out and with friends and all of that might not be their way of, dealing with stuff. They might want to, sit with a book or something and just so
Right.
yeah.
And I'd like to, offer some things that, as I said, finding those people that can bring you to the joy of life or help you explore the joy of life. Another one was contributions. And the idea is that, how we keep the gratitude journal? Uh, this finding was more that instead of, the gratitude is you're just grateful for whatever showed up. But in this idea of contributions, it was suggested that you write down 3 things that you did well today. 3 things that you did well, like, oh, I made the best cup of coffee this morning. Or, wow, oh, Alex, knowing you, you made the best, the best pasta dish around. Or,
Right.
oh, and I hope I'm not oversharing, but Alex writes music. So I wrote the best piece of music today.
Yeah. Or I could have a real uneventful day and then I'll just have to pick 3 things and it'll be like, I took a shower, I brushed my teeth.
Exactly.
It get really bad.
I really brushed them and they were really shining brighter.
Yeah. New money.
They did today, yes. But finding something, it doesn't have to be anything major, anything
Sure.
big. As I said, that I made the best cup of coffee this morning. For me today, I finally got my lighting better for my show, but something that brings attention back to you, something that brings attention back to the good of you. We all have good. We all have good. We just need to be reminded of it. And also, I'd like to just offer, self-compassion, being easy, being gentle with ourselves. That is a big, I don't know about you, Alex, but I can do some really heavy mental self-talk on why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that? But just really showing ourselves some compassion, that knowing that when we're moving through these kinds of emotions, that we do need to be gentle. And Alex, what you said, I love that about the grieving, about the grief being exhausting, and knowing that grieving takes up like 10% of our brain power. So you do need to rest and take care of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any other thing that you would like to share, Alex, with people that may be experiencing, that cumulative loss like yourself and just moving through that grief? Is there anything that you'd like to share?
Well, just speaking of the last thing that you said, about kind of being gentle to yourself, or I think that's kind of what I took from what you were saying. Because
Yes.
I have a tendency of like, whether I realize it or not, I can like torture myself like internally, just, like I said, when I think about, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. I think people need to just, I think it's almost universal that people need to, and I think that was the first P, right? You just can't personalize it so much, even though it's easier said than done. I think that tends to be one of the most common things, at least with me. I can only speak to my own situation and say that, like, and I don't know if it's like a ego or like a narcissistic thing for me to just make it about me, but it's just all in my head. So I'm not like, I'm the only one who's really knowing what's going on. But yeah, I just think I have a tendency to just like mull over something and that I have no control over, and it just becomes like kind of a torturous thing, almost self-destructive in a way. So I mean, the best advice that I would, that's I think that the one thing that I could say was probably universally applied to everybody is that, if you can just cut yourself some slack, it might make things a little easier on you, because it's not going to help to like blame yourself for something that you had no hand in.
Right. I do appreciate that, Alex. I do appreciate that. I say that all the time. And some self-compassion. And if we can be compassionate with ourselves, then it makes it easier to be compassionate with others. So knowing that that can definitely be a healing tool.
Sure.
Yeah, so I just want to just, as I said, really thank you for helping to explore. Oh, just want to go back to one of those things that when we talk about finding the joy.
Mhm.
I know your son. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what he does that brings you joy?
Oh, I mean, he drives me up the wall, but I mean, I love the kid, so that's
Uh,
where I will be going once we sign off from here.
yeah,
Well, he's 14 and he just dunked a basketball. He just sent me the
yeah,
video from school today, and I'm just like, whoa. So it's yeah,
yeah.
he's a giant, and he's a sweet kid.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, he's you know that's another thing that I think I neglected to mention that was probably a help. Not probably, definitely. Like he was a big help. Like you know, when I lost Matt, again, my best friend, those years ago, because he was just a real comforting
Yes.
company to have around. So I owe a lot to Nico for that, and I think I tried to teach him that it's okay to feel like certain ways, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, not to throw my dad under the bus or anything, but he's talk about
Um,
stoic. He's not the most expressive guy. He's like a great guy, but he doesn't have that ability to like express himself, at least. So
mm-hmm.
you know, in my experience with Nico, I definitely trying to make sure that
Yeah.
he's a little more open, and I'm more open with him on feeling stuff, so that you can just
Mm-hmm.
ventilate and get it out there. And I think it translates to us communicating pretty well too. And it goes
Mm-hmm.
beyond like just processing grief. It can go right into any other number of departments that are all just kind of connected, because like I feel like kids are just kind of losing their innocence these days, like so quick. They're growing up so fast. I know it's cliche, but I'm just trying to keep him kind of like, I'm trying to teach you how to be a man and all these things, but I'm like, I'm not in a rush to have you like, you know,
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Oh,
So
gosh. Yeah. So
yeah,
your Nico. Your Nico helps you find the good. But it sounds
definitely,
yeah. And
definitely.
I applaud you for not passing on that. Stoic, and we can't talk about things to Nico, but you are pretty much breaking that cycle, having that open dialogue with
I'm
him.
trying.
Yes. Well, that's all. You're trying. That's it. So that is the key. Trying
Yeah, yeah.
to do that.
No, I
Doing
think we're doing. I think we're getting it done. So
great. Yes, Alex. Wow, Alex. Ah, I can't believe time is going by so fast. So
yeah,
my takeaway from this is that you're definitely doing your work, as they say that you're doing your work. And I love your advice to really self-compassion, taking it easy on yourself, and finding
yeah.
the true with Nico. So, oh,
I know I'm a little all over the place, so I hope something I said made sense. 'Cause I'm just like,
perfection, everything. No, just being here, Alex, just
oh
being
well,
here,
I appreciate it. I'm honored to be here.
tremendous.
Plus,
And just,
I have a support system. Like, yeah, you're a phone call away. I could call Bonnie, so I that's a cheat code right there. Like,
oh,
you know,
I'm
times get hard.
I am honored your family. And that's, yeah, that's another important thing that you said first on, surrounding yourself with people that can encourage you to move forward. That is important. So surrounding yourself with friends,
Mhm.
being easy on yourself, and finding that joy. That's what we're going to leave everyone with today for
That's good.
building resilience in the midst of grief. So self-compassion, finding the joy, and good friends. Okay. Thank you so much, Alex. You're
Thank you,
my
Bonnie.
hero for today. So I just thank everyone for listening. And again, I'm Bonnie Gonzalez, grief coach and registered nurse, and just here for you. I want to say today at 4 is Circle of Peace. So stay tuned for that. For or Mountain Time, I believe. And just check out New Thought Media Network. So just want to say, New Thought Media Network, thank you for having this platform that allows us to have deep, meaningful conversation. So until next time, be well and ask yourself, what do I need today? And whatever that answer is, you go out and do that. So thank you and see you next week. Alex, see you backstage.
All right.
Thank you.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network. Come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.